Big news today. This is episode one of the Legally Invested show with Francesca Witzberg. I'm super excited about this. The big question that we're answering on this specific show is how can any entrepreneur, content creator, business owner, big or small, use intellectual property and the law to stay protected and profitable, to invest in themselves, and to create wealth in our new digital age? And then on this show, we're going to also reveal the success secrets of thriving business owners who have harnessed the power of intellectual property, digital assets, and content creation to build the life of their dreams. So, currently live on Instagram, and I also am streaming on LinkedIn and YouTube. We're going to be doing this show once a day, super simple, keeping it very high level and fresh. But for now, today's topic is actually not going to be an overview of IP. We're going to delve right into the topic that everyone's been literally texting me about, tagging me in, asking me questions about, and that's Facebook's new name. I understand why everyone's like super interested and intrigued, but I really want to give my opinion on it. I haven't been able to actually articulate some of this. So the first thing people need to realize is that this is Facebook. Okay, we're talking about one of the world's biggest company, their most powerful digital brand. Mark Zuckerberg is one of the smartest people in the world. I don't care if you like him, you love him. Like, that is a fact. He's incredibly intelligent, and he uses lawyers. They have an entire team. They have teams. They have like mini law firms at Facebook. Okay, so this was definitely vetted not only by any trademark lawyers, but the best of the best in the world. I hope that some of the lawyers who helped advise are watching this. So shout out to you guys. And I'm sure the people reading everything online, you guys want to articulate too. So hopefully I can kind of speak to that, because in my experience, I have been in the position where I've advised a really big company before on changing their name globally. So there's a lot of issues that go into it. The one being that it's a big company. The advice given to a big company versus a small company is extremely different. Okay, that's the first thing to know. So I'm going to talk about what the analysis and what the advice would look like to be Facebook's lawyers versus a small company. And now's the time where I'm just going to let everyone know this is not legal advice. I give very high level practical overviews. I have not been able to read every single thing on this topic, so I'm just giving you my opinion from my own experience. So the first thing to note is that Facebook appears to be using this as what's called an umbrella name. So an umbrella name is somewhat different than a regular trademark name. An umbrella name is when a business changes its overall big brand name to create one big umbrella brand and then have underneath it all of its sub brands. We've seen this, a lot of fashion companies do this, but also we've seen this with Google. This is nothing totally out of the ordinary. Google changed its major big company name, its umbrella name, to Alphabet. Okay, and I don't know. I feel like the hype wasn't as big about that as it is here. So, but they're very similar instances. Okay, so what does that mean? That means they're changing their corporate name. They changed their ticker name. They're going to change their whole name, but that doesn't mean that Facebook is going away. Facebook is not going anywhere. Facebook is just going to be one brand under, from what I read, it's going to be one brand underneath the bigger brand that they decided to change their name to. And so then they'll have Oculus, then they'll have Instagram. Like, this is a global digital holding company that does everything. So from a trademark perspective, the reason why people do this and brands do this is because Facebook connotes a certain business, a certain consumer, and so they want to actually divide up their brands so that Facebook doesn't have the commercial impression that you get across all of its brands, which are totally different users and all of that stuff. So, okay. Now, let's say that Facebook comes to you, you're a big trademark attorney, and they say, we were changing the name. So Mark Zuckerberg went to his team and they definitely ran trademark searches. For the people out there saying that, like, what are they thinking? How can they trademark this? Like, they did trademark searches and Facebook was advised on this issue. They knew about the meta that's on the USPTO in class 9 for computers. They knew about some of the risks with it, with the mark, and whether it's inherently distinctive, meaning like, can you protect meta and terms that connote metaverse for a potential metaverse platform. But when you're advising a client that has essentially unlimited legal funds, like in essence, when you think about it, they can do what they want, really. And whenever I talk to clients, I never say no. I never say no. And the reason being is because it's really a business decision on how the client can proceed. There's strategies that you can use to adopt names, to buy out people even if there's a dead hit. So you never say no, you just say what the risk level is, and then you give the client options on how they can either acquire the rights or try to overcome some of the issues if they have it. So it sounds like Mark Zuckerberg really loved the name. He wanted to go ahead with it, and he had trademark lawyers, likely, I'm assuming, run these searches globally to see what the risk level was. So they filed in some countries, but also, whether or not an umbrella name operates like a trademark and acts like a trademark is a question to be asked. Okay, so sometimes the name is purely used as a trade name. It's not consumer facing. They're not using it for products or services, and so that would be the case if all of a sudden, and it could be the case here, if they don't create a product called Meta, or time's going to tell. But if it's just purely a corporate name that they're kind of operating under, that's a question to think, is whether or not to actually go ahead and trademark it. So you're going to do the search reports, and then you're going to give the client analysis. So they got analysis saying, okay, it looks like even though you're not using it as, you may not be using it as a trademark, you're Facebook, you're huge, you have a target on your back. People are going to come after you if they have trademark rights. So you have to do the trademark clearance, whether or not it's actually a trademark, or you're just going to use it as an umbrella name. And so when you do these types of huge global searches for bigger brands, you not only go in very specific. You're going to search every single country and see what the risk level is, but then you're also going to have to give a general summary report of what's the risk level if I change my name across the world. And so I'm sure what happened here was he got the report and he made a business decision to go ahead. Okay. So the company that owns Meta, an application for Meta, I don't know if you guys have seen this on TMZ, some of the other news sources, there's a tech company called Meta that they filed their application, and they want like $20 million, I think, for the rights to the name. Which I just, this is what like prompted me to get on here. So the application covers computer goods and some other things in class 9. And Facebook, I actually checked, they do have registrations in class 9. So even though they're more of like they are like an online platform, you can download the app on your phone. There is, arguably some overlap. But again, the question comes down to, are they going to be using it as a trademark? Is this use in commerce? Also, the decision is, does Facebook care? I don't think they're going to end up paying $20 million, but maybe they'll cut the other business a nice check to go away if it just, continues. So those are some of the considerations that Facebook actually thought about. And the one other thing that I keep getting asked is, how can you trademark Meta, right? I mean, like, the startup tech tried to do it, right? There are terms in our language that you're able to trademark that you think that, how could you trademark some of these things? If you work with a really good IP lawyer, the trick is that you have to register for your goods and services in like the way that you're actually selling things. You can't just trademark like namaste, right? Like in general, you can't prevent people, but maybe you can trademark namaste for like a breathalyzer, or for shoes. You know, you can actually get certain categories with some of these bigger names. So I think it's the same thing with Meta. I needed to do a long form video on this because there's just so many issues that come into play, and I wanted everyone to understand. Again, this is one of the biggest players in the world. The legal analysis is different, but it's definitely there. They definitely made these decisions consciously, and so yeah, that's Facebook. The other thing I wanted to talk about is then smaller brands, right? So if you have a smaller brand that's doing these, if I had a smaller brand and I did the search and I found Meta for in class 9, I definitely would have raised it, and it would have been a higher than normal risk for me, especially if like you're an online platform, you have downloadable software, then it's the small business's decision, because the small businesses don't have unlimited resources to fight trademark battles. You know, you're doing everything else. So a small business may have seen this risk and said, it's going to be hard to protect. There's some people already using it. I am going to stay away from that. And that's what happens. So that's like a really high level overview of the Facebook case. And I'm happy to answer any questions. I just needed to get this video out and give my opinion, because at the end of the day, like, people, you have to remember who your client is and who the person is. This is Facebook, okay? So give them all that legal analysis, go narrow with all the specific countries that they're going to use, that they're going to potentially use in, but also give them the big picture. And the reality is sometimes you do get CEOs and business owners that say, okay, we want to go forward. How? Then as lawyers, our job is to guide the clients to the path of least resistance and help them through. So with that, guys, one last point I want to make is that this is really also, it comes down to risk assessment and business judgment. So my end answer to everyone saying, how can they trademark this? How can they do this? Is because they can. And if you really want something bad enough, and if you really have the funds to do so, that's the world we live in. And if you work with the right intellectual property lawyers and come up with strategies, you'd be surprised on the things that you can accomplish. So with that, I'm going to go. Comment below, even while this is live right now, but there's going to be a recording. Ask questions. I'll try to answer them. Otherwise, I hope everyone has an awesome rest of your day, and thank you for tuning in. This is the Legally Invested Show with Francesca Witzberg, and I will see you all again soon.